Okay, hello there. I'm doing another DeJA view, following on from my last re-review of various different lights, some of which you can see here, the UV lamps and torches that I've got. I've decided to review my lamping equipment that I use when I'm making these videos. At the moment, I've got neither of them on. I only have two. Well, actually, I had a third, a smaller one, which burst several years ago, which is the whole reason I got this one. And then in turn, not initially that impressed with this one, and to begin with I got this as well, simply because it had more LEDs and therefore should be more powerful. It's also got, as you can see, a white background, which in theory should, cast off more light than the black background does. In case you're wondering, there is obviously all this sort of dirt collected on the screen here. You can't take this screen off, I'm afraid, but this dirt is basically the back end of sellotape that I've put on. I was basically making some homemade light filters, and the best way to do them that I found online on other YouTube videos, which I might do my own take on at some point as well, was to basically put strips of sellotape, transparent sellotape, over the top of a light surface, take a colouring in pen and then literally colour over whatever colour you wanted, apply more sticky tape and then do the same again with the same colour or a different colour to get different effects. I used that as a basis to test that out and it worked quite nicely. The problem was, of course, yeah, you guessed it, the sticky tape stuck to everything. Now, there are various issues I've had with this particular model. I'm assuming it's just this particular unit itself rather than a problem with the range, because I've seen other videos using this exact model and nobody else has had the problems I've had, mainly being turning it on and off again. I've got the batteries out for the time being, but that's not the issue. Turning it on to full blast, eventually you'll start hearing a sort of hissing noise, and it's actually, I can't tell if it's coming from the batteries or from the bulbs. The only way to resolve that is to turn it down a bit. You have to turn the dial down a bit to resolve that. Doesn't mean you'll always lose that much light, it just depends on how much light you want out. And if you have it on continuously for too long, even though the batteries might not die out, they may eventually overheat and everything will basically end up having to power it down automatically anyhow. One nice little feature with the battery housing is the fact that you have this little ribbon here to help pull the batteries out when you need it. It also has this little plastic cover that I don't bother using because it's so awkward to take in and take off. It's also relatively flimsy plastic as far as the container is concerned. The rest is decent enough. Okay, could possibly be a slightly higher standard, I suppose, but it's decent enough plastic as is. But that backing plate, well, it does do a good job of keeping the batteries in. It's just too awkward. I keep feeling like I'm going to end up shattering it and cut my fingers up, and I just don't want to do that. The actual mounting unit here, you can take this off and put it this away, and then you can hold it there, on any kind of mount that you might have, and cast the light that way. That works quite well. No problems there in any way, shape or form. Let's just put the batteries in, AAA's in this case. I hope I'm putting them in the right way. I can't really tell from this angle. Oh, yeah, and I had it on already. And as you can see, it gives off quite a good blast of light. It actually gives off much better light than I thought it would. Now that I've gotten used to it over time, I can actually appreciate the amount of power it puts out as far as the lights are concerned, which is actually quite good. It gives off quite a nice bright white light, even with the obstacle of this particular dirt on the cover, which I haven't been able to get off. It still does the job quite well. Whichever way you want to hold it, it does do things quite a nice bit of justice. You've also got this orange light here, which hasn't came on recently, but it has turned. Oh, there it goes. Oh, yeah, that's indicating a problem. I think in this case, what's going on? It seems to have died on me during the review. Yeah, let's just see if we can sort this out. So, here's me singing its praises, and it dies on me in the middle of the re-review. Oh, well, at least I can show you the ribbon. Kind of works pretty well most of the time, just not all the time. That's the ribbon itself, that is, not the unit itself. It always tends to leave that last one in still, ever so slightly. Let's just see if we can fix this. Yes, there we go. And you can see the orange light is still on. Not sure why, but and it's flickering. Yeah, I think this entire unit is just potentially, you know, it's salvageable if I perhaps open it up and take a look at the wiring or something, but I just don't think there's something quite right with it. But when it works well, and it does exactly what it should be doing. Okay, it is a decent unit in itself. It's just that this particular model, this particular unit, doesn't want to always work the way it should do. It works quite well with the hot shoe attachment here as well. If you put it into place, then it works quite well most of the time, except my screwing ability isn't that good right now. Don't read too much into that. But you can see now that's all in, yeah, you know, it's not gonna go off anywhere. This then brings me on to this lamp. Now this has a backing plate, okay, which leaves everything open a little bit, so you can still see the batteries. I'm assuming that's so that you can tell whether the batteries are in a state of disrepair or anything. There's also a power adapter type thing here, which I've never bothered getting. And then we have this little adapter here, this little hot shoe mounting area. Again, I've been using this for the same sort of premise as my own homemade lens filter, light filter colours rather. Sellotape across each side and so on and so forth, colour in and rinse, lather, repeat. Now this gives off arguably slightly more light, I would argue, because of the simple number of LEDs that it has. And the white background, although that is sometimes debatable, I think. It's also sometimes a little difficult to get it to work first time around, because you have to be absolutely certain that all the connections are working perfectly off and on like this. And this time around, yes, it does. Bloody hell, that's got to be the brightest it's been. These aren't even new bulbs. Oh, of course they're not new bulbs, I've had them for ages. These aren't even new batteries is what I meant to say, but that is the brightest I've seen it in quite a while. So if I knock it back like this, yeah, everything is getting knocked out. The white light balance is just getting, yeah, that's somewhat terrifying. Thankfully, of course, you've got the option to tone things down a bit with the settings here. So we'll just do that. And it's also knocking everything out of focus for the camera, of course. But yeah, the whole idea though with this backing plate is like, put this on here and it holds everything in place and does a very good job of that. If you don't have this on and this falls off, okay, if you don't have this on and this whole unit falls off the off your stand or something, for example, which it is prone to do, then your battery's going to go everywhere. If you've got this on, then it does do a very good job of keeping them in place. Might not keep them perfectly in place, but CLB. You've also got this little light bulb, well, this setting here, which I've never been able to figure out what the hell it's for, because I've never bothered to read through the instructions, but just to blind you with science, I mean blind you with a light here, then this is about the lowest you can get before it goes off, which still gives off a decent amount of light. You know, that's bloody impressive and bloody terrifying at the same time. But the main problem is the adapter here, you know, the actual mount. You might think, oh look, that's as tight as it's going to get. And you're right, that is as tight as it's going to get, and it is quite versatile in how you can, you know, lock this in place and move this around and so on to get whatever angle you want it to be. But this little hot shoe adapter just doesn't work the way it should. And I'll show you how by just sliding it in this. Oh, no, hang on, I've got. Let's just move you that way. That'll work a bit better. Yeah, one thing, it's a bit awkward to get it into place. There we go. But no matter what you do to try to tighten it up into position, it just doesn't want to know. See what I mean? I have now tightened that as much as it will go downwards, and I've disassembled it and reassembled it several times. It just doesn't want to know. It'll hold in place for a little while, but one little nudge and it starts going. Yeah, that's not really that good, is it? If you've got, of course, anything that can just go in there, some sort of screw thread on some of the tripod stand, then it tends to work quite well. Okay, the actual stability in this ball joint works quite nicely, but unless that's just a default, unless that's just a fault on this particular model, I can't really recommend it for this reason, because otherwise it's just going to keep falling off your hot shoe. The only workaround I've found in that regard is whatever hot shoe you're using, especially if you're using one of these, not so much the hot shoe on the actual camera unit. The only way to work around it is to angle the hot shoe where it would potentially fall out otherwise, so that this little catch works in your favour. So if you want it pointing downwards, do it like so. If you want it pointing upwards, do it thusly. Okay, and that's basically it. They're both very good units in their own right. It's just I think somewhere along the lines I got slightly defective units. That is a problem that affects not just this hot shoe adapter, and yes, this is a cheap extension kit, but it works perfectly with every other hot shoe mount I've got. It's just even on the camera's hot shoe mount, same issue.